Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome indeed to today's Movers and Shakers virtual event. My name's Natasha Salter, and I'm Managing Director of Movers and Shakers. Thank you to all our virtual attendees for watching today. For those of you who don't know Movers and Shakers, we're the UK's leading property networking forum. We celebrate our 25th anniversary this year. We're a family business and we are passionate about connecting our members, generating opportunities, enabling them to win business and putting on first-class speaker events. Now, as our physical events have been postponed, we have a series of virtual events that we've really enjoyed creating. Today is our fourth virtual event. Any events you've missed have been uploaded to our Movers and Shakers YouTube channel. And indeed, all of our events will be posted on YouTube. So please do subscribe and have a look. All of our events are free of charge to make them accessible to everybody. So this morning is our first event in our Monday morning motivation series. This is inspirations and insights from property people. The aim of this morning is to have a half-an-hour session to motivate, to inspire, and to kickstart people for the week ahead. So this is a slightly different style, I think, to Movers and Shakers traditional events. We're not looking necessarily at industry issues. This is all about people. We want to make it a relaxed, informal style event. Think round the coffee table type of chat. I hope you've all got a coffee or tea to hand. So this morning, today we have three contributors. They're all very different property people, but they've got some commonalities. First of all, they are all very passionate individuals, passionate about their job, passionate about their life. They are all highly regarded and highly respected by their peers in the industry. And they all want to share their motivations and inspirations with you this morning. They want to encourage others. So they're jolly decent individuals. So thank you this morning, first of all, to Karen Cooksley, who is partner at Winckworth Sherwood. So Karen is one of the UK's most highly regarded property lawyers. She leads a team of specialist planning lawyers at Winckworth Sherwood. And Karen is indeed a force of nature. Tim Heatley. Tim is the creative co-founder and CEO of Capital and Centric, which is a regeneration company that has a very strong social focus. He was also one of the founders of Regeneration Brainery, getting young people into property, and I'm sure he'll tell us more about that during this morning's conversation. And lastly, Atif Ali, who is just starting out in his career. He's a law graduate from Birmingham University. He's just finished an inclusive growth graduate scheme at Birmingham City Council and is now working as an officer there. So he's highly motivated, highly ambitious. So welcome to the three of you. And I just quickly want to also say to our audience, you can ask questions. There is a Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get through some of these, but we do only have half an hour, but we can all see your questions. So welcome to our attendees and welcome to Tim, to Atif and Karen.
Morning.
Hello.
Morning.
You all right?
Yeah.
In three, I was going to say three very different geographical locations in terms of Karen in London, Atif in Birmingham, and Tim in Manchester. But from the backgrounds, indeed, it is very different locations. Atif, do you want to tell everyone where you are?
So I'm in a small park near my house. I thought I'd get out.
No, brilliant. And I think Tim's there back in his office. And Karen, where are you? You look like you're in a cellar, to be honest.
No. It's too early in the morning. I'm at home. I live in a converted factory in Clerkenwell.
Wow.
Oh, no, lovely to have you joining us this morning. So I'm going to start off the questions with a sort of overarching one. Can you all tell us, maybe start with Karen and work to Atif and Tim. So who and or what motivates and inspires you in your life? Thank you.
My maternal grandmother is somebody who I always have in mind. She was an amazing lady. She had a really feckless husband and 4 children. So not having any skills, she had to go to work as a char lady, and she worked for some amazing people. We later grew up going as guests and friends to one of her employees who was a colonel in the parachute regiment, and his wife, who was a cordon bleu cook, and taught me to cook. But she basically cleaned and scrubbed for other people in order to keep her 4 children together as a family. And because she couldn't afford for them to carry on and have further education or do some of the things that they wanted to do, like my mum wanted to be a hairdresser, they had to go out to work as soon as they finished their basic schooling. And that gave her and my mum a real sense that that wasn't going to happen to the next generation. And so I am always thankful for my education, the chances that I was given. And I've always tried to give my children more, and my young people at work more than my family had in the past. And I keep her picture by the door, so her photograph's by the door every morning when I go out, and I say, bye, Nan, and you know, I'm going to have a good day today.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. How lovely. Atif?
Good morning. I think for me, my parents are my motivation, and there's a reason for that. It's because, you know, I've got 2 disabled brothers who have cerebral palsy, and seeing my parents care for them, you know, at a very young age, you know, I saw that as I was growing up. And you know, my dad left work, you know, he was in the factories. He left work when I was in year 4, so when I was 8 or 9 years old, and it was around the same time my youngest brother was born with cerebral palsy. And so for me, my parents are my biggest motivation, you know, just seeing them every morning do the selfless work that they do in order to be able to, you know, in order for my brothers to have a chance at a decent life. You know, for me, that is what keeps me going and keeps me motivated. And it also drives me, makes me want to be a better person and be like them and serve others.
No, that's fantastic. I know you're a highly motivated individual, Atif. Tim, so passing on to Tim so he gets a chance to speak.
Yeah, I should point out, actually, I was going to broadcast from the bathroom this morning because it's the only place I can get a bit of peace and quiet at home, I've noticed. But that didn't work. The kids were banging on the door, so I darted around the corner to the office. So that's where I am today. Hence peace and quiet. I've got my feet up and a cup of tea, so I'm delighted. And it's similar. It's interesting. I'm similar. It's family, really, that I take inspiration from and motivation from. And I think that's probably we're all the same. We all want to, in some ways, we all want to make the people who are important to us proud. So that's definitely a big factor. And in a similar way as well, I think as many people in our families, we all have people in our families that are vulnerable or have some sort of disadvantage, and as a result, you realise that actually we're fortunate that we don't have that, and therefore we're, you know, in a sense, there's almost more onus on us, and there's kind of, it's our duty almost to kind of to ensure that we're making as much as possible of the opportunity that we've got given to us.
Absolutely, really agree with that.
No, that's brilliant. I think it is the same for most people who are lucky enough to sort of have families, and hopefully we do all learn and we do all pass good things on. So I just thought it'd be interesting this morning to ask Karen and Tim, you've both got established careers and Atif is starting out in his career. What advice would you give to Atif? You
go first, Tim.
Well, yeah, I think there's so many different things, actually. I'd say he's obviously already off to a great start, which is fantastic to see. I'd say that you need to, throughout the process, I continue to ask daft questions all the time. I never accept the first answer I'm given, and I always probe and say, well, why? You know, I think we're seen as a business, Capital and Centric seem to be very creative and pushing boundaries and so on. But that's often born from, you know, wanting to really understand something and pioneer and do stuff that's more interesting. So always challenge, or never to the first answer you're given. Be prepared to fail, but you know, there's anybody that I know that's successful in their careers that hasn't got a string of failures of various sorts behind them, me included. And that happens to me. I fail every single week on things, and therefore that's really important to to get back up. So you've got to be self-motivated. You've got to work hard for sure. You're not gonna get given on a plate. I suppose that hard work and that journey, staying positive, being tested, it makes for a much more rewarding result in the end. You've got to keep trying.
I absolutely agree with all of the things that Tim's said, especially the failure bit. When new people come into our team, I say we've got 2 rules. The first is, when you make a mistake, come and tell us. Always come and tell us, be honest about it, fess up, don't try and solve the problem yourself, because you may not be able to, and we'll probably be able to do that quicker. Second rule, try not to make the same mistake twice, because we learn, don't we, Tim, from our mistakes, not from our triumphs, most of all. What else would I say? Keep a smile on your face. Be willing to do what looks like the small, boring jobs, even offer to do those, because you don't necessarily know when you're starting out whether that small, boring job is in fact the most important tiny cog in the wheel of the bigger transaction or deal that you're doing for your client, for the people of Birmingham, for whoever. It's really important to be humble in that sense, because everybody in a team has a part to play in it. Be adaptable. I was talking to my new trainee last week. She's just come into our team at the time when we all went virtual. So really difficult circumstances, because she doesn't know anything yet about planning law. But actually I told her to turn that around, see it as an advantage, because when we're doing our everyday jobs, things hit us from left field all the time, and we have to be able to adapt instantly to that. And I suppose, because it's a movers and shakers event, what would I say other than start your network early, get it going as soon as you can, send thank you letters to people when they've helped you. Make sure you've got your LinkedIn going up, ring people up, take them out for a coffee, engage as you would with your friendship group, because your professional network is going to be your lifeblood for your future career.
Oh, that's excellent advice. And Tim, can I just ask you there quickly about Regeneration Brainery, because it's an absolutely fantastic initiative that you were involved with from the start, and I know sort of we're partnering you guys and trying to help where we can, but maybe if you can just give us a quick overview, because that's something quite fantastic for young people coming into our industry. Yeah,
thanks, Lee. And I think we're keen as well to get further kind of support and mentors and input from the property industry, and so everyone's welcome to help, and I'm extremely grateful for Movers and Shakers for helping to spread the word. And it came from, we were contacted a lot by the children of, the young adults of architects or project managers or quantity surveyors, saying, oh, can you give my kids some work experience? And they'd turn up here, and generally speaking, they'd often be lovely and polite, but not really wanting to pursue a career in property particularly, but they were kind of almost ushered there by their parents. And then at the same time, I was conscious of that, and they got a very, they didn't really get a great experience, because they were sat in a meeting with me using all sorts of, buzzwords, alliteration, of stuff, industry-specific stuff, that meant that it was very difficult for them to keep track and get a very quality experience. And so we thought, well, at the same time, there's lots of people out there that probably would love to be in a career in property, but don't get the chance to kind of get that first foot in the door. And therefore, we set up we did a trial, and we called it a Brainery, which is an Americanism for knowledge sharing. And we got a number of, got 20 young adults in a space, and we mentored them, we showed them around workspaces, around architect studios. We took them to fancy offices where you could work, and took them to construction sites. We took them to early stages regeneration projects, and explained to them that you can be a lawyer, an accountant, a financier, you can be a graphic designer, you can be a landscape architect, you can be whatever you want to be in this industry. And it really, by crowdsourcing mentors and individuals in property to help, take individuals under their wing and show them what property and regeneration and the built environment is all about. It was a really useful way of inspiring young adults to come into property rather than think it's all construction. And I'm astounded at how the industry's taken it on and how it's grown and grown. And we trialled it in Manchester, and then we now work with over 100 young adults a year in places like Birmingham and London and
That's
Bristol
fantastic.
and so on. So the best bit is we get a lot from that, because it helps us to, we learn a hell of a lot from hanging out with people who are 18, 19 years of age, who have a certain view of the world and they know what the future is actually. So they know how it's going to be, and that makes us, that enables us to future-proof and to refine and improve and design things as we go through the process of development. Makes us much more relevant for sure.
No, that's absolutely fantastic, and it's really interesting actually on that theme. Younger and people more established careers. We had a Movers and Shakers breakfast last year, and it was an intergenerational breakfast, and we had a couple of guys that had been probably you can guess who they were, that had been 40 years in the industry, and two younger people, kind of tech savvy, really hungry, coming into the marketplace, and they were looking at almost, what does the new generation need from the more established, and vice versa. So maybe Atif, maybe you want to say to Karen and Tim something about what you feel you need, starting out in your career. Is there something that you need from both of those guys?
I think it was interesting because I was speaking to my little cousin yesterday, who I say he's little, he's only a few years younger than me. And so he's finishing university, and he spoke to me yesterday evening. We were sitting down, as you know, it's Ramadan, and so we were talking over WhatsApp video, having like a virtual breaking of the fast in the evening, and he said to me, Atif, I want to ask you a question. And I said, go, fire away, Saj. And he said, I'm struggling, I don't know what I'm doing with life. And for me, I think what was interesting, the answer that I gave was, you need to find a sense of purpose. And I almost found that sense of purpose when I did my work experience, as sad as that sounds, at Birmingham City Council. It was coming out of that university and education context and going into the world of work and being around like-minded people, because I felt like, at university, everyone's got their own reasons for being there. Some people are there because their parents have forced them to be there. Some people are there because they there's a particular path that they want to go down. But with work, I found it was a little bit different, because it was like you were, everyone's at the same level, and everyone's kind of wanting to achieve the same objectives and do the same, have the same outcomes. So what I encouraged him was to get that work experience. And I think for what I would say to the attendees, over 200 that we've got, and Tim and Karen, is that having opening up opportunities where people can shadow you for the day. So it's not necessarily about work experience where it's kind of a week long or 2 weeks long. It can be, we're in a kind of virtual world now. So even a case of, someone speaking with you for an hour, over Zoom or over Skype, or even emails, I think that's so important. And then, once we're back up and running, post the COVID-19, and when we come out of this, people just spending, young people spending the day with you, I think that would be really useful. And what that then instills in kind of young people, especially like my cousin who grew up in inner city Birmingham, still lives there, and single parent house, is that it plants a seed. And there's nothing better than planting that seed, which then gives them a sense of purpose, because when they've gone through the education system, it's just kind of mundane. It's one thing after another, school, then it's college, and then it's university, and it's just the same thing. And having that world of work really does help.
Yeah,
it's also, as Tim says, the property industry is so vast, it does so much for the country. Doesn't really tell the country it does that, but there are also all sorts of routes into other careers, just by doing that shadowing of one person and talking to them and being given a little bit of time from somebody who's not just a teacher or a family member or something like that, isn't it? It's somebody else giving you time and respect as a person, as a young adult.
Yeah, I think the thing that we all forget as well is that as an industry, we're far more collaborative than any other industry that you can think of. You know, we have to interact with so many other different disciplines at the same time. And that's a real maze to get your head around, especially when you're starting off. And proof of that, I think, has been the government really, the last thing that they wanted to shut down was the construction development industry, really. And you can see that they're keen to switch it back on again, because I suppose so many people don't necessarily think of themselves as being in that industry. And yet, when there was pressure to close them down, all of a sudden we realised how many people it affects. It's huge. It kind of, in many ways, can often be the lifeblood of the UK's economy. And so, and that then is obviously, and as a result of its complexity and its scale and the amount of people involved and employed as well, it can be quite difficult in some ways to break into, especially at a senior level. It can be a great kind of like social mobiliser, but often because the process has been, it's used nepotism to recruit itself. We ended up with that quite middle class male kind of structure and setup as well. And so it's great that that's now changing, and that it's much more varied and it's much more inclusive, and it's much more interesting space to be in as a result.
I mean, Karen, Tim, what do you feel like you want from this generation that are starting their careers out now? Or, you know, what do you need from them?
Well, what I get already from the next generation in my team is tech-savvy people who are genuinely interested. I want somebody to be genuinely interested in what our projects are for our clients and helping our clients to deliver those projects. I don't want somebody who is just interested in the law for its own sake, because that is a different thing. We're in a very practical industry, so we need to be there solving problems, helping people manage risk. And I want intellectually curious people with that practical commercial edge, who also want to be part of a team. As Tim said, you know, this is a very collaborative industry. We're working all the time with architects, landscape designers, with people who know about very esoteric specialisms, how to bore a tunnel under the Thames, and with a wide range of clients who have different needs. Each of our clients has its own personality. That might be because it's an entrepreneur-driven SME. It might be because it's a PLC with a certain approach to life. It might be somebody like Tim's organisation, which has a certain philosophy and mission statement. But you have to buy into that, understand the client, and really want to achieve for them.
Oh, that's great. Go on, Tim.
I'd say, you know, I think one thing that we've noticed is that there's definitely more, more young people join the industry that want to work hard, and they have to understand that it is hard work and it's really rewarding work, and it can be really good fun as well. But I am concerned that some of the higher education institutions are churning out these, they're ambitious, but at the same time they have a skewed perspective of what is hard work and how much effort is needed, and actually what work-life balance might mean when you're younger. But at the same time they want it all, you know. So I think there's a bit of there's a bit of a reality check that needs to happen. And that happens when you hit the world of work, but it'd be nice if it happens back at university level. That's for sure. And the other thing is, I think we would also like to encourage people to come direct to the industry rather than having to go via university, so to learn while they work. Vocational courses are great in construction. It happens a lot, but less so in the property sector.
It's really interesting that you say that, because back in the day when I started in my legal career, they switched from a world in which you could do your articles as working without a university degree to having to have a degree. We're just going back into a more apprentice style work training, where you can do an apprenticeship and get your academic qualifications as you go along, which obviously gives access to a greater number of people who are not able to, for example, go to the bank of mum and dad, or indeed to burden themselves with student loans. So you'd be working and learning on the job. And I think you say, wouldn't you, Atif, that learning that you do when you first go into the world of work, the skills you pick up from that are so valuable compared with what you learn in college.
Definitely. I think for me, when I spent 2 weeks back when I was studying my masters at Birmingham City Council, in the inclusive, it was economy directorate then. I think for me, what the opportunity that I was given back then, and some of it was about you know, so I'd seen an article in the Birmingham Post, which had Wahid Nazir's name on, who's the former director of economy inclusive growth. And what I did was I sent him an email and thought, you know, I was never going to get a response. And I look back at it now because it amazed me, because within 20 minutes I got a response, you know, where he'd written back himself and said, you know, thanks for your email about work experience. I look into it, and you know, a few weeks later, I was there spending time and learning about what Birmingham City Council did on the ground. So I think there was two things that I learned from that. Was one, you know, never be worried about reaching out to people. You know, the worst thing that's going to happen is you won't get a response back, and the best thing that's going to happen is you'll get a job and, you know, a 2-year grad scheme, and, you know, you'll be speaking on, you know, with the great people like yourselves, you know, this morning. So I think that's one thing. But the other thing that I got out of that was just the practical hands-on work experience. I never thought the world of work could be so fun, you know, because you're with the, you know, I've been amazed because of the team that I was put in. You know, I was with you know, an array of people from all walks of life and all backgrounds and all kind of stages of their careers, and you know, it's kind of definitely matured me and made me realize what is important in life, and you know, what you need to get out of life. And you know, just what I learned in the first few weeks of being at Birmingham was that you know, just how to speak to people, whether that was on the phone or whether that was by email. And as Tim said, you know, you don't learn that in university or college, or
and fabulous
you know,
life skills for everything else you're doing, not just at work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can unfortunately we're running out of time, but can I just ask you also one final question? Sort of coming out of COVID-19, you know, we've got to have some positivity. Is there something that each of you can say that you've personally sort of grown through, that you've learned, that you're going to take away, and maybe from the business sense, maybe something you've just reflected on through this time of lockdown? So who wants to go first? Tim?
I've learned that I need to exercise more, which I've started to do. I've learned that my wife can cut hair, which is great. It's going to save me a fortune. I've learned how hard it is to be a teacher. I'm really found a new appreciation for teachers. You know, that's an incredibly difficult job. And I've learned how 99.9% of people will do absolutely anything for you if you ask. Most people are absolutely fantastic, and how strong that community spirit is. So yeah, lots of benefit, you know, lots of pluses in amongst all the horrible stuff. Yeah.
Atif?
I think I've learned just how you know, amazing and adaptable people are. You know, we from pre kind of being forced into this virtual world of doing things online. You know, you would have had managers and you know, senior people within an organization.
The old dinosaurs among us. Yeah, that'd be me.
You said it, not me, Karen. You said it. People say, you know, you can't work from home. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. And now, you know, we've got to a stage. You know, as I said, I'm a carer, and so I've benefited from working from home kind of very early on, even though I'm at the start of my career. And so some of that has been rolled out now across the organisation that, you know, Birmingham City Council is, you know, 12,000 employees. And I think what's interesting is, you know, I'm in the business change team at the moment, and some of the conversations we've had is, you know, what are the benefits that have come out of this, and how can we then implement them in the organisation going forward. And it's things that, you know, we knew deep down were possible, but it's taken, you know, a health crisis and an emergency that COVID-19 is, to just kind of, you know, iron out and just push out what those, you know, things that we said are impossible, which are actually possible.
Karen?
Absolutely agree with the adaptability, particularly of the older generation. I think presenteeism, the need to be in the office, will go away. I think that will lead to a reduction in the need for office space. Hopefully we can use some of that for regeneration and resi. And I'll give you a really good uplifting story about something really good to come out of this. It's actually saved the life of a friend of mine. Two very good friends of mine were at home at about 6 o'clock last Tuesday night when one of them had a stroke, and the other called the ambulance, was there because of lockdown, called the ambulance. The ambulance was there in 10 minutes because there's no traffic on the road. And as of yesterday, the person who had the stroke was walking and talking. So thank God for the NHS. But thank God for COVID, because otherwise that might not have had such a swift response, which obviously in the case of stroke is very necessary. So that was a very uplifting thing that happened this week.
No, and I think, you know, there will be positive things that come out of this, and that I think for me, sort of the community spirit is, you know, is superb. It's kind of, I think that's exactly, you know, clearly this was needed in the sense of, you know, in the sense of sort of getting everybody together and to do good for the world. And I think, you know, we're in this place, and I hope it accelerates kind of the trends that we were going towards in terms of really thinking forward in terms of climate change issues now as well, and sustainability. But yeah, we'll be talking more about that in some of our next events. But thank you, three of you, for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
This has been, you know, a really great start to the week for me, and I hope it has been to you three and to kind of all of our attendees today. Just a quick note to everyone that we'll upload this video to YouTube, so you'll be able to watch it again afterwards. And our next Movers and Shakers virtual event is this Thursday at 11 o'clock, and it's a webinar. It's an all-ladies webinar, an all-ladies panel, and chaired, and it's on New World, New Order, on place shaping, public realm, design and collaboration. So thank you to everyone again this morning. Have a good day, have a good week, stay safe, from our family to yours.